Live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Movie Minds. This is Spiderman Far From Home spoiler talk.
Yo.
Oh yeah.
Gloves of
Finally.
are off, y'all.
Who's starting off, guys?
Ding ding, round one. Go ahead.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. So, this movie, man, I can't believe how good Marvel did the follow up to Endgame. It really is blowing my mind how good it was, and to say that it was done like from Sony as well, like that Marvel empowered Sony to do this film, really says a lot of the strategy that Marvel is like. They're just fearless now, I think. So, I mean, overall, I loved it. It's a great movie. What about you?
Well, look, guys, spoiler review. We're talking the spoils in this movie are like none other. You know, it's like if you get spoiled, if this movie gets spoiled to you and you haven't seen it yet, oh my god, it's a bad thing because this movie has so many spoilers. But they're so great, guys. I love this movie so much. I really can't even think about what to say wrong in it, and I don't know if I really said that, but
I'm sure we're gonna challenge each other
maybe.
on that.
But
we'll
honestly,
I have a few.
I don't know, man. To that end credits he let, it's just crazy, but great stuff, man. Great.
What about you, Jim?
Man, I was just in love with the storytelling. Like you said, I think my biggest qualm with Avengers Endgame is it might be better in some aspects than I think than Infinity War, but for me it's not as rewatchable.
Yeah.
And so, there was a lot of slow. That second act was really, really slow, man. After you got that big, Thanos scene where he gets, killed.
Mm-hmm.
But this was like a great follow up immediately because it takes place right afterwards, and it's like, hey, sorry. It's almost like sorry about the long story, but here's like another one. But it's a really good storytelling, really good character development, especially that first act, man. That first act to me, it just set up so much, like as far as like what you knew the journey that sort of that Peter Parker was gonna take, and I mean, what do you think about his journey?
So I think as far as like the first act is concerned, I think it's my favorite part of the whole movie. It's just like I said before in our like other mini review on our last show, we were just taken on a journey of what the ramifications of Endgame was, and you know how like they were the high school kids were having their own podcast or like show, and dude, that thing was so hilarious,
good.
man.
It's so good.
It just, dude, like just so great, like
Dude, yes.
the blimping, like that's what they call it, right?
Blimpy, yeah.
Blimping, and like it just you could see the scene where they disappear, right? They get snapped out, and then they come back in the same area, and it's like 5 years later in a basketball game. People start running into the band and stuff.
Yeah,
my gosh, that was so cool.
That was good.
That was great. Good. And then I think that the whole relationship of like Peter Parker getting his bravery up to talk to Mary Jane and like really accepting how he feels for her and like. And then in seeing Mary Jane actually like accepting her like desire and like to like get closer to Peter, and I think a lot of the things that she does in that first act really pays off later on, but the first act was so great because it has nothing to do like with superheroes or like it was just like kids like being trying to be adults, you know what I mean? And man, it was so cool. Oh, like and then Happy with Aunt May, and how his like that was cool. Totally surprised. He was like you could totally tell they were like hooking up or whatever, and that was so cool, man. I love the fact that Peter was or Spider-Man was out. Like just doing public appearances and stuff. That's like totally something I would see someone do that for their neighborhood, right? So that's like he's like a neighborhood superhero, neighborhood Spidey, and you can see like that's just so natural and like so like of course that would happen later on. You know what I mean? It was so cool. So the first act was great. What did you think about the first act?
Look, the first act, I loved it. It felt so. again, just like the first Spider-Man with Tom Holland, it just felt really 16 Candles to me. It really felt like that John Hughes kind of feel to it, which to me it's so important because I'm from those kind of movies. So first off, the blimping, the show, how they started off, I was really wondering what they were doing. I'm like, why are these pictures looking like, but it was all part of the school. Yeah. And it was just so great. The way
the opening song?
Yeah. Oh, oh my God! Yes, Whitney Houston
set the tone right
there. You've really seen the Okay, we're gonna be really I don't know, it's different.
I was laughing, dude, when that music song was on. I was just excited because I knew they were gonna do something great with it, and they really, really did. It was just a part of the whole school memoriam thing for everyone. Yeah. Moving forward in the first act, though, I really love the way that they just took care. And I was really, really worried about what they were going to do in Spider-Man with the Tom Holland and Zendaya, Mary Jane characters to come together, because to be honest, in the first one I didn't feel that the chemistry was there completely. Yeah, totally. And so coming into this one, and this is where that Marvel's just so great, right? They were able to make their relationship as awkward as any relationship that you start when it's your first one in school. And they were able to capture that tenfold. They did so great.
So real, man.
It did. So real. Yeah. Even in the bridge when they kissed each other, it just seemed they almost didn't give you a script. They almost were like, just do whatever you guys would do. And it just seemed so. Yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal, guys, I gotta tell you, man, he is just another story, man. A great actor, great Mysterio. What he did in the movie, the mind of writing this movie. Whoever wrote this, I don't remember their names, but whoever wrote it and they made it the way it is, they're geniuses. Honestly, this Marvel movie has so many sides, so many elements to it, and you think you throw so many things in a movie, it's gonna make it bad, but it made it great. And honestly, right now for me, this movie is just great.
Yeah, I really love that. What I really love most about that first act is how it didn't take itself serious. It made it made fun of itself, the whole flipping thing. You would think it's, but how they did, they reappear, the band's in the middle of the basketball game. It's just so funny. People are like, what was wasn't there two brothers, but one of them is older now. He's like, isn't that weird? My younger brother is now my older brother.
Yeah.
I was like, that was just funny. I love how it just didn't take itself serious. It totally made fun of itself. Especially, I loved that whole use thing. You see the little boom mic coming down. I just the poor quality of it. I love it.
The phone Peter's phone that was broken, that you could see the crack in it. Just so little things like that I pay attention to because it's just so great. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That Whitney Houston intro song, I think it definitely set the tone. Okay, this is gonna be I automatically knew. I was like, okay, this is gonna be. I don't know. Maybe my mind just thinks that way, but I knew. I was like, I think we're gonna start off with Peter Parker doing a tribute video. Tony Stark, and then it ended up becoming that. And I was
wow.
Okay,
I didn't know you.
Yeah. One of the things that I really loved about the whole their character and the relationship they had was Ned and Peter.
Oh yeah.
Man, it was so so genuine. I feel like they actually have a friendship, and it was just super geeky, nerdy, awkward. You know what I mean? It made me remember the good old days when I was in junior high school. So that was great. And so what about so now they fly out to Europe, right, to the trip, and Peter gets laid with a bunch of responsibility, right? Mm-hmm. He's ghosting Nick Fury. And so what do you think about once the second act, once that starts, when they're out and about? Trip.
I'm gonna be honest, man. This movie, when Nick Fury gets involved, and you guys know the element. It's he's being fooled by Mysterio, and the story seemed so real at the time because the previews and the trailers had shown us that there was going to be a multiverse, and so a lot of us were like, "Oh, what the heck?" All of us, including me, I'm like, "Oh, well, then we can really go back to any world and really get back a Tony Stark or a Captain America."
Yeah.
But once you watch this movie, it isn't that. It's this guy, Jake Gyllenhaal is using technology to make his own things happen.
Yeah, which was the barf technology that Tony Stark.
Right, which is from
I love that they did
Iron Man 3?
That's
Civil War. Civil War. Yeah.
And they got some of the bad guys, or some of the people from the Iron
That were
Man
involved
1.
in other
the guy that got fired.
And they just, they did that so great. And they weren't able to do that if they didn't have this lineage of movies.
Yes,
you know?
Yeah,
exactly.
there's like a
Exactly.
trend of like, I felt like from Endgame to Spider-Man, like Far From Home, it's like really doing a good job of like almost like tying like the little, even like the smallest little
Wrapping it
loose
up.
ends, yeah, and saying like this is why Mysterio has his team.
Which
you know
I
what I'm
think
saying?
this movie is the last of Phase 4, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it is, yeah. I'm absolute. I think
No,
I'm pretty
Phase
sure.
3, no?
Phase 3.
Phase three.
Phase 3.
Yeah.
But this is the end. This starts phase, if you want to call it,
I'm not
which
sure
they haven't
about
called
that.
it yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Phase 4.
So this last phase, and so I think with the whole what you were talking about, like how Mysterio like is not really Mysterio. So to be honest with you, like me growing up in the '90s and stuff like that, I watched Amazing Spider-Man, and you know for a fact like Mysterio is a villain for sure. With the whole multiverse thing from Endgame and them kind of backing off of that and kind of tricking everybody with it, I thought that the villain was going to be another version of Mysterio, where they were going to come out and he was going to be from another Earth X or something like that, and then
Earth X.
Earth X, and so they were gonna go ahead and like fight each other or something like that. But the whole time I was like, but that's not Mysterio. I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal is playing him too good, like too nice of a guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so all this time, like I'm thinking about the villain. I'm like, where's the villain at? It can't be these elementals because they're just like popping out of nowhere. And I'm like, that wouldn't be too deep enough, or like that kind of pushed me away, to be completely honest.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a good.
The elementals were like kind of like fillers in that point,
Right.
and it didn't make sense until the third act or towards the end of the second act, where Jake Gyllenhaal Mysterio comes out of nowhere and he's like he tricks everybody pretty much, even Nick Fury or the Skrull, spoiler alert, there. And so I think that pushed me away a little bit in the second act. That's why I did not like it as much as the first act. Because in the first act it made all sense. Second act was like, okay, well, all right, elementals, okay, cool. There's a big old end of the world thing, and I was like, man, Mysterio should be way more than that.
I just like the twist, like the curveball, because even my wife was like, is that it? Like it honestly felt like if that was gonna be the movie, Peter Parker turning over,
And
what was the name of the glasses?
What's the name of the AI?
Oh my god, I can't remember.
My gosh, I forgot her name.
Edith.
Once he handed it.
Oh,
Edith.
by the way,
Edith.
what does Edith stand for?
It stands for
Iron Man's even in death.
Even in death,
I'm still
Iron
a hero.
Man is the hero.
Iron Man's still a hero, something like that. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. It was like
that happened. It went by so quick. I don't remember it. But like even if if the movie was to end there, right? Like that did feel like good.
Horrible.
It would have been terrible. But
Yeah.
like, okay, the next movie he comes back as like the villain, right?
No.
But it did feel like I was like, wait a minute, it can't be over at this point. He handed over Edith. Okay, they took down elements.
course,
That's
yeah.
it. Like really?
No, yeah.
So, but one thing that I felt like Act 2, what I appreciate about Act 2, that it was kind of presenting Peter Parker with so many options. Like, it was like controlled chaos. Like, okay, we're going to Berlin, but this person's controlling here. But really, Mysterio is like kind of controlling, like, why they're going to go to the next part. Like,
It was just
the
really
Prague.
great
It was
writing,
just-
man.
It was
Really
almost
great
like, yeah, it was just
Oh, makes
weird. It
sense.
was a lot of setting up of like so many options. Like, Peter Parker either becomes normal, or now he wants to, or if he's still going to kind of
And
be
that-
trying to be the hero.
That is literally
So-
why I said the second act worked for me on that level, because I was like, okay, this is kind of throwing me off the Jake Gyllenhaal thing, but Peter Parker's story of like trying to become normal, like he has all this humongous responsibility, but then he's tripping about him just hanging out with the girl he likes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was so cool. It was so like grounded.
Very normal.
Yeah, extremely normal.
Humanized,
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
to be honest, the Mysterio character, I get what you're saying about him being, that you weren't impressed in the beginning because of what he was doing. However, just like you guys are impressed about the story with Mary Jane and Peter and how so generic it felt, so real, right? To me,
Genuine.
Yeah, genuine.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right, genuine. I'm sorry about that. But with Mysterio, even the backstory of Mysterio and why he's doing it with the people that he has get
Right.
together, there's such a realism in that. Why?
But
Because
it
he
wasn't.
says
That's why it's Mysterio.
right, but the reasons that they're doing it, they're like, hey, you know, this is the only way that people will really even pay attention to what we're doing, and this is this tech, and dude, people are like that. Maybe not in this, but in another like humanistic way. That was so real. The writing in that, they must have taken something real and implemented it into something fictional, and that's why I love this writing. It was just great. It was just a great
So
movie.
I think Mysterio actually says it in the third act, where he's like, people will believe anything nowadays. Like,
I love
like,
that line.
That line.
Well, yeah,
just
with
wrapped
all the
up
chaos.
in
Yeah, all the chaos
every-
that's
He's like,
happening.
we made up a crazy story, illogical story. You must be insane to believe this. And he's like, we
everything?
still believe it.
Yeah.
You know?
'Cause the
And
snap.
I think that kind of is like a ringing to what's happening in social media and like, you know, the news and stuff, the coverages and stuff like that. I think that was kind of a message that was wrapped up in Spider-Man.
I love that.
Actually,
I told it to you, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that was heavy.
Yeah.
The second act had a lot of twists, cause I think it had like a lot of things to try to throw you off your game.
Yeah.
And so like even when they were showing Mysterio kind of like going over, almost like being real diva-ish, she's like, let's make more lightning or more thunder, more impact, more explosion.
I love that.
I thought for a second, I was like, oh, okay, so he's really not that, you know, I totally,
It's all the drums.
I was sold and believed like kind of like the underselling of his power or what he's capable of.
Yeah.
But then Act 3 came along and the gloves were off. I was
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
holy crap.
That's the Mysterio that I know and
that
love,
was
man. Like,
so
look,
good. Yeah.
I'm not a big like comic book fan for Spider-Man or Marvel per se. Like, I haven't read all the issues and stuff like that. But like, my gosh, man, like the cartoon, I always go back to it. Like, that's Spider-Man. To me, I've said this before. Spider-Man is like the crown jewel of the Marvel universe in my eyes. It's never been Iron Man or anyone else. But to see Mysterio like get to that level where you're talking about, like, just he's using trickery and illusions to like get to beat Spider-Man. You know, this superhuman hero. You know,
Aside
so
from
that was
maybe
great.
Wanda, you know, like Scarlet Witch, like put him in an Avengers movie as the main hero. I mean, as the main hero, as the like main antagonist.
That would be tough.
And like,
but
yeah, I mean,
it's possible.
How many people could he'd be able to?
I don't know.
I think he'd
Like,
be able to fool
literally,
a lot of people.
Spider-Man was
He had
able
to
to
build
beat
the suit.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, this time
that was
it
a
was
great part.
It was
He didn't have
his
spiders.
Peter Tingle. Peter Tingle.
Peter
Yeah.
Tinkle was great.
So that was cool. That was awesome because they don't say Spider-Man spider senses, right?
Yeah.
Spidey sense. But on the third act though, you know, Peter's beat up. He like pretty much is just giving up at
On
this
and out.
point, and he's being picked up by Happy. What do you guys think about from there? Like,
I think
how
honestly,
did it wrap up for you guys?
when look, I'm gonna be completely honest. A lot of people might have thought that you know a Peter Parker can take over Tony's mantle, if you will, right? I never thought that. Until today. Until today. There is such a what they did today in this movie. Apart from all the great things that I've already said, they were able to get this kid. That I never thought that he can fill Iron Man's shoes. And they took him through this story completely and made him give up his belief in himself and was able to get it back. And at the end of the movie, at the end of this film, you can really, this is when Marvel is genius. You can see, for me, Peter Parker is going to be the next Iron Man. He is going to grow. There's going to be more than 3, 4, 5, maybe 4 or 5 more movies of just Spider-Man alone because of how
Tom Holland has a bright future.
they executed this film. They made him. Now, I never in a million years thought that he was going to be now I'm a believer. Spider-Man is going to be the leader of the Avengers. I really, when it comes time, when he's older or whatever.
So which is why I say how Marvel, the studio that makes these movies, has so much confidence in it because it's released by Sony. So Disney releasing that power to Spider-Man, man, that's like really selfless, to be completely honest with you, in my opinion, from Disney's perspective.
Or smart.
No, super smart,
Yeah.
selfless though, because they could definitely had bring up a new Iron Man, like a younger Iron Man, or like they could have made, I don't know, these other heroes like into A-listers. But in my opinion, no, it's a logical transition, and that's why
they have a
it
history
feels so great,
of
man.
taking like not so much like the A-list characters, like
Yeah.
really just kind of
That's
mid-level
that's
actors.
the bread and butter of
and
Marvel
just making
now.
Yeah, and I loved how I did love how it wrapped it up. I think it totally justified. You know, the whole notion was for us to think, like it was presented to Peter Parker in Act 2, like can you live up to the hype? You know, what are you gonna do? Like really, Act 2 was kind of like asking Peter Parker, like, what are you gonna do? And then you know, just to see like the joy, like I love how all the other characters kind of are getting their closure. Like Happy, this was really important and connected character, a really important connected character to the Iron Man thing, because you want to know like, hey, you were snapped too. Like this is a big loss for you too. Like, you know, Avengers Endgame didn't really touch that much. Even the beginning of the movie kind of touched a little bit. We're more focused on Spider-Man, it's his movie. But then to really see like his joy and like almost like he's getting his happiness, you know, like seeing like, oh, okay, like, you know, his job now is to protect this kid, you know.
Right.
It was to serve Tony Stark, it was to protect Iron Man or be there for him. Now he's like, I'm here to help you out, and seeing that.
So can we agree that Happy is the Alfred?
Yeah,
of the Marvel universe?
I would say so.
All right, isn't that?
It's definitely not
like,
the AI.
It's so funny that he just said that, because the first thing that I think about when when you were talking, that's the first thing I thought. Happy when he says when that song turns on, I almost lose it, guys, in the theater. I almost lose it. I almost want to cry.
He puts his hand like in to simulate the glove or the spider web.
And Happy looks at him and
like,
smiles,
smiles like,
and says,
"You got
"Bro,
it, kid."
you're my next Tony."
And back when they meet Mysterio for the first time, when he meets him, and he's like, "Don't ever apologize for being the smartest person in the room." I was like, dude. And we all know it, man, because Peter he's one of the smartest people in the Marvel universe.
Well, you know, Mysterio was alluding to his own self, like, you know, I think at that.
Yeah, that too.
I think he got outwit
like
secret
hook.
But they put the camera on Nick Fury and on Coulson when he says that, and they're like,
right.
like this. But then, you know, Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury gets him later on in the film, telling him like, "Well, you're smart, but you're dumb because of the decisions that he got." It's just a great.
It was a great wrap up. Like that whole Happy thing. It's like how just expressions alone, and acting can say so much. Like, okay, you're believing in this kid.
Yeah,
you believe that he's gonna.
That was definitely.
He's not gonna try to live up to the hype, right? He's not gonna live up to the hype or try to even be the next Iron Man. I think he's just gonna be who he's confident in who he is.
I agree with that.
Who he's gonna be, and that's the way Marvel should be. Marvel has always been a Spider-Man heavy, you know, very face of the company.
Yeah.
And
for many years,
And now he has that chance to. Tony's gone. Spider-Man's gonna step up, and I think it's lining up the way it should be.
Yeah. So, final thoughts?
Well, the final thoughts we should talk about really right now is the 2 end credit scenes that happened. They are probably. This might be my favorite end credit scene of all time, to be honest.
All time?
I do, dude.
It sets up so much.
You guys got to understand, okay? Damn. When Spider-Man first got created by Sam Raimi, I loved Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. I loved him. Right. But you know who mostly I loved in that movie? Like, really just think, oh my God, they captured the essence, the look of what I remember my cartoon and my comic books. They're bringing back J.K. Simmons as Jonah Jameson. And I couldn't be happier, man. When I saw that, again, I had one of those moments. I wanted to lose my mind of seeing that. How do they take something from the early 2000s and implement it into something so new? It caused nostalgia. There's so many emotions that I can't even really...
Yeah.
But one thing is for sure. It has to be my first or second best end credit scene in Marvel. I was just so excited.
I love the last one at the very, very end, showing Nick Fury like on the spaceship. Some people are speculating it's going to be Sword. It's kind of like the space answer to like S.H.I.E.L.D. So S.H.I.E.L.D. is Earth-based, you know what I'm saying? And even like from what I mean, I really have to go back and really do the do the digging of like the timeline right now,
Mm-hmm.
but like I don't follow Agents of Shield, so I don't know if from what I know, it kind of cleaned up a
know.
little bit,
Yeah,
but
I don't
it's
follow
still in
that.
so much disarray still from like the Hydra infiltration and all that, and they're like
Yeah.
probably still getting themselves together. And so, you know, Sword is more like the space version,
Right.
and it's like preparing for the more cosmic threats, the bigger threats. So
Hey guys, I
love what they're saying.
didn't understand the
It's cool.
scroll stuff. If you guys
Well-
can explain it to me, because I
well-
didn't watch the whole Marvel, the Captain Marvel, just because I got super bored on it and I didn't finish it. But
As you
if
should.
you guys could,
So it's a twist a little bit,
uh-huh.
not so much, but the scrolls. If they're setting up for Secret Wars, what ended up happening was there was majority of the scrolls are kind of like evil, really
They're
just bad
alien
guys,
race, right?
and
Oh,
they're
okay.
they shapeshift. So they shapeshift and infiltrate like high political figures, you know, really famous. And our like fan favorite like Marvel characters,
Mhm.
and so it's called Secret Wars because they were like, you know, in disguise as the Avengers for the whole time, and then, you know,
Just like what they did
it's
with
like it's a secret
Nick Fury.
invasion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you could say that Nick Fury has been a Skrull all this time.
We don't know that.
Since Avengers.
But
the
we
first
don't know
Avengers.
My mind is
Seriously.
blown right now.
Yeah.
Just
you-
to think what
I
it
mean,
just.
I mean, you could totally deduce that because Captain Marvel was pre Iron Man in timeline wise.
It just
So,
poses so
it's
many
possible.
questions. Like,
It's a possibility.
there's
yeah.
a lot of. I love how it's a small hint, but it's still super vague to make you think like, okay, why was Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, like unavailable to help on Earth, right? Like, where's she been? Are they kind of looking for her? Like,
Right.
there's so many possibilities. Is it Sword? And they're like preparing for Galactus or someone else coming, like, you know, Nihilus or something like that. It's just, there's so many possibilities. So it's definitely like a very, like, you know, mind itching and frustrating as a fan. Like, you know, this little springboard tease, like,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen? What are they gonna do?
I know we gave our score on our non-spoiler review or whatever, but what is your score for this movie?
From 1 to 5, I have to give it 5 Spidey webs, man.
5. I gave it a 4.5 Spidey webs.
I gotta go with my boy Daniel. I can't find any issues with this movie. It was a 5 for me. Honestly, it was great. It was just great.
All right, guys. So Spider-Man: Far From Home, you gotta watch it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's great, guys.
All right,
And
guys.
Go see it twice.
your name?
Daniel, go see it.
And Ish.
thank you guys for watching.
Stay movie minded.
Mind.